Guys and gals, I'm going to give you an example of a conversation that will blow your clients' minds when it comes to Roth IRA conversions, at least if those clients are interested in Roth IRA conversions. Here's what I found when it comes to agents. Here's my observation around agents and advisors that do Roth IRA conversions, that really focus on conversions, that try to master conversions, and also market conversions to their prospects and clients. That they're usually higher end reps, they're usually higher end agents. Well, why are they higher end? Because the clients, the prospects that they attract are usually higher end. Why are they higher end? Because these are clients, prospects that are concerned with taxation. If they're concerned with taxation, why is it they're concerned with taxation? Probably because they have a lot of assets, specifically tax deferred assets, right? So I have just found that this strategy called Roth IRA conversions, I found that the agents that really focus on this attract high-end clients, and in turn, those agents make a lot of money. But guess what? You have to go beyond the concepts. I love the concept of paying taxes today on the seed to where you don't have to later on the harvest, versus with traditional IRAs. Somebody's going to pay taxes on that harvest, whether it's you through RMDs, Mr. Client, or your beneficiaries at their tax bracket when they cash out that harvest, right? I typically would rather pay tax on the seed versus the harvest. Yes, those concepts are great, but how do you apply the actual numbers to it so it's a meaty, meaningful conversation, and give them a roadmap? People want to be told what to do and how to do it. Yes, this all looks great, but how the hell do I do it? That's what we're going to get into here. And remember, folks, this conversation I can help you with. I do conference calls around this, as well as Social Security maximization, optimization, three-way Zoom calls with clients all day long, along with the agents, of course. So we can do those three-way Zoom calls to where you plug me in to talk about this. I have a couple agents that call me their number cruncher when they bring me on the phone with a client. Here is a way that you can converse with our 70-year-old client here that has $1 million of traditional IRA. So here we have a client that's 70 years old, 71 actually, and in the data entry part, I put has a $1 million traditional IRA. We all know that at 73, required minimum distributions are going to begin. And by the way, the only other income that this person has is Social Security. So they have zero taxable income this year, literally zero taxable income. Why? Because the standard deductions are more than what their taxable income is. Well, here, that's going to change starting at 73. So we see their taxable income get bigger and bigger, that dark blue shaded in area over time. And we have what their taxable income is relative to what the tax bracket is that's going to ultimately determine their taxation. So when they cross over this light blue tax bracket, they just broke out of the 10% bracket, right? Then they're in the 12% bracket. The top of the 12% bracket is the light green, it looks like. I'm blue-green colorblind, so I don't know if it's freaking green, blue, black, fuchsia, but I think it's green, right? So the 12% tax bracket is filled up when that dark blue, well, gets up to the green. And then boom, Mrs. Client, Mr. Client, you are breaking into the 22% tax bracket over time because of those required minimum distributions. And then, by the way, we assume that your beneficiaries are going to pay a certain tax rate on that asset that's increased in size over the next 20-year period of time. And by the way, the system projects how that asset, that $1 million IRA, is going to grow over time. It projects it using something called Monte Carlo simulations here. Well, how about, what if we did this, Mr. Client? What if we filled up this white area here? You see, up to the 12% tax bracket, the green, you have some white, fluffy area. You have some white area there. And what if instead of letting your overall tax liability grow over time, what if instead you paid a little taxes today on that seed so that you don't have to so much on the harvest later on? What if we filled up that 12% tax bracket today? What kind of a trade-off will that give you and your beneficiaries over your lifetime? So let's do this. Let's fill up the 12% tax bracket here. That's what we're going to do. And by the way, we have to assume a tax rate for your beneficiaries, what tax bracket they're going to be in when you pass on that asset, whether it's a Roth or a traditional, at that point in time. Now, the system projects that your asset over the next 20 years, it's going to grow to like $3 million, right? You have two beneficiaries, each beneficiary getting $1.5 million of, let's say, traditional IRA money. I would say that a tax bracket of 35% in that year, especially without us knowing what tax rates are going to be 20 years from now, I would say that's not too egregious of an example here, right? So let's assume that the beneficiary is going to be in the 35% tax bracket. We refresh this, and here's what we've done. We filled up that green there. We filled up the 12% bracket. And in short, between you and your beneficiaries, we're looking at $323,000 of additional wealth that we project to get you over your lifetime by filling up this 12% tax bracket, by giving you taxable income this year of $100,800 instead of zero. Well, how do we do that? Well, again, we convert. Well, exactly what is the amount that we need to convert to get taxable income of $100,800? Charlie, do I have some sort of a roadmap to tell me this, how I get this additional wealth over time? Well, of course you have a roadmap here. Here we map out what conversion amount is needed in order to max out that 12% tax bracket over time. 84 grand this year, 86 grand the next year. Well, Charlie, what about Medicare IRMA? There's this thing called Medicare IRMA where I have to pay more for my Medicare Part B if I have too much in not taxable income, but adjusted gross income. Can you show me how that's impacted here? Yeah, actually, let's go back here to our chart and I'll show you where the bracket kicks in for additional Medicare premiums that you'd have to pay. We are well below the light blue. The light blue there, if you're below that, says no IRMA. So we are well within the light blue area to where you're not going to pay any more on Medicare premium. So folks, this takes into consideration all kinds of different things, not just tax brackets, right? But here's the thing is you can dial in the sweet spot. The sweet spot isn't even filling up the 12% bracket. It's filling up the 22% bracket. So now you're accelerating the conversion of that Roth, that $1 million IRA over a period of 6 or 7 years here. Why is that the sweet spot? Because that is what we project to get the client and the beneficiary the most wealth over their lifetimes. What is the roadmap for that? It's converting a heck of a lot more than the whatever, $80,000, right? Maybe the client says, I'm kind of uncomfortable with that. Or the client says, but are we breaking into IRMA? And yes, here instead of $5,800, $6,000, yeah, we are paying IRMA taxes or IRMA penalties, whatever, of a couple $1,000s more per year, right? So 2026 tax returns, that's reflected in 2028. 2028, yeah, you're paying almost $9,000 between you and your spouse in that year because you are paying that Medicare premium. Ooh, I don't like that. I know it's only a couple $1,000 in exchange for $500,000 more wealth. Plus, I don't like the size of the conversions. Those conversions are huge. Can I just go with the 12% scenario where I fill up the 12% tax bracket? Well, yeah, you can. That's better than nothing, at least based off our projections. And by the way, remember, we aren't even assuming that tax rates increase. We can actually program into the system. Well, what if what you believe and I believe and that tax rates are going to increase, say 15 years from now? What if that happens? It's only going to strengthen our story when it comes to Roth conversions. And hey, if they use one of the products that you offer as the tool for Roth IRA conversions, wouldn't that be kind of cool? So folks, again, call me if you want me to help you with this conversation and give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you thought this video was glorious.